Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be making something with our eggplants. They are just now in harvest, and this is my second one that I harvested, so I have two to work with. I have one more that I can go out and cut now if we end up needing some more. But I'm so excited that we have eggplants in our garden now. So let's make some eggplant parmesan. There are many different ways that you can make this. I'm going to make it on top of a spaghetti dish, but I've also made it in the past as like a layered lasagna type dish. So really you can do it any way you want, but let's start with the basics. We're gonna slice this up and let it sit out for a little bit with a little bit of salt on it and let some of the juices rise to the top, and then we'll bake it up. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and slice off the end of it here. And you can see we have a nice white center. That is wonderful. And I'm gonna cut it probably about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch, somewhere, whatever that equals. So you don't want them too thin because they'll kind of draw up, but you also don't want them too thick or it'll taste too much like the eggplant. And really what I'm trying to do is disguise it so that my kids will eat it and think it's more like a meat texture than a plant texture. And so I've got these little circles that I'm doing, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick, whatever your preference is. And we're just gonna go ahead and continue to slice these up, hopefully around the same thickness. And we'll put them on the pan here with a little bit of salt. All right, one of the things we're gonna put on our sliced eggplant is kosher salt. So kosher salt is a little thicker and coarser than your table salt. It's easier to wipe off, but it draws out kind of the sourness or bitterness of the eggplant. So we're gonna let the eggplant sit for about an hour with some kosher salt sprinkled on it. Then we're gonna wipe it off, and then it will be ready to dredge and bake. I don't really measure this. I just kind of sprinkle it on each piece liberally. Get some more. Gonna coat each piece and let it sit for an hour. We have been picking our own cherry tomatoes for the last several weeks, well over 1,000 of them. I have made lots of salsa and lots of recipes with tomatoes, so of course we're gonna use our cherry tomatoes in today's recipe. The first thing I did was put some olive oil in the bottom of the pan, and I'm gonna roast up these tomatoes until they soften up quite a bit. So I'm just doing them on a low heat, low medium heat, and I'm gonna put the lid on them and let them cook down for a little bit. All right, so my little cherry tomatoes have cooked down. You can see all I put in here was olive oil and the cherry tomatoes. They've gotten really soft and smushy. So now I'm gonna start adding all of the other ingredients to make our sauce. I don't really measure these. I'm just going to put some things in there that I think will taste good. So let's go along and do this. All right, so I'm gonna start with this garlic, and we're going to chop up a couple of cloves of garlic along with 1/2 of an onion. All right, I put 2 to 3 cloves of very finely minced garlic in there, and I chopped a 1/2 a white onion, and we're gonna let that cook down. I'm gonna start adding some of our other ingredients. All right, so to our sauce, we are going to add a small little jar of tomato paste. This one is 6 ounces. And we're also going to add some tomato sauce. So this one is just a regular 15-ounce jar of tomato sauce. We're also going to add some oregano, some salt and pepper, and some basil. I went and picked some fresh basil from our plant outside, and I'm going to chop this up and add this to our sauce. All right, so our marinara sauce is now blended. We're going to let it sit there and simmer on low for about another 45 minutes. All right, so it's been an hour since we put the salt on the eggplants, and as you can see, hopefully you can see, all the little water that's kind of bubbled up to the top there from the salt, how it's kind of pulled that moisture out of the eggplant. That is what we're gonna wipe off, and then we'll be ready to bread them. All right, so I just get a paper towel, and all I'm gonna do is just kind of dab the moisture, and I'm just gonna kind of wipe off the salt as I go along, and you can kind of see it takes some of that salt and residue with it as we wipe off each one of these. I did put salt on both sides, so I'm going to flip those over and do the same thing on the other side. You guys, I have some ingredients that we're going to dredge our eggplant through. The first is some Italian herbed panko breadcrumbs, and I'm going to add to that some grated Parmesan cheese. I don't really tend to measure my ingredients, but if I did, probably about a half to 1 cup of those, and we'll mix those in real well. I also have 2 eggs, and we'll get those beaten up, and we're going to add about 2/3 cup of milk to the eggs, and we'll get that stirred up as well. And then I also have just some plain all-purpose flour, plain flour, and I'm going to add some oregano and some salt and pepper, just some black pepper here. And again, I don't really measure these, it's just to taste, so however much you feel like you want. You can do a half teaspoon of each or a 1/4 of a teaspoon of each, whatever floats your boat. And I got some garlic powder. We have a lot of garlic in the sauce, so I'm not going to put a lot in there for the garlic powder, because we do have those garlic cloves in the sauce. And some onion powder, and again, not much of that either, because I have a lot of onions in my sauce. So we're going to stir all these up separately, and then we'll come back and dredge them. All right, so we are going to take our eggplant. It does feel a little more spongy now that it has set for an hour and dried out, but we're just going to coat it in the flour, and I did put a little bit of seasoning in the flour. And then we're going to tap off the excess and put it in our egg and milk mixture here. And then we're going to make sure to drip off the excess, and then we're going to put it in the panko crust and the crumbs here. And that one is done. I have a parchment paper lined pan here, so we're just going to do all of these in a row, and then we're going to bake them. So I managed to squeeze all of these on one pan. I'm not sure how I did that, just luck. But I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. All right, our eggplants have toasted or baked in the oven for 30 minutes. I did flip them over around 15 minutes and let them cook another 15 minutes, so 30 minutes total. I like them to get a little brown and crispy so that they're not real gooey. All right, let's check in our sauce. So it looks pretty good. You remember we started out with our cherry tomatoes, and we added a can of tomato sauce, a little small can of tomato paste, garlic cloves, onion, some basil fresh from the garden, and we have it cooking now. So it has been cooking and thickened up for a while. This is where you can change it up and do whatever you like. Sometimes I like to put a little bit of mascarpone cheese in here, make it a little cheesy tomato sauce. Or you can spread it out as a lasagna and make it the sauce, and then the eggplant, and then the cheese, and then more sauce, eggplant, and cheese. So it's kind of like a stacked lasagna. But I'm going to serve mine on top of spaghetti, and I'm going to sprinkle it with Parmesan cheese on top of that. So I'm not going to add any extra cheese at this time. All right, our spaghetti noodles are done. I just boiled them in salted water for about 10 minutes, and they look nice and done. So let's serve this dish up. All right, so we're going to put some noodles down and then sauce, and then I stacked 3 of our little crunchy toasted eggplants here. And I'm going to put more sauce on top and Parmesan cheese on top of that. Here's our dish. It looks terrific. So we have our eggplant Parmesan. I served it over a bit of spaghetti with some homemade marinara sauce, topped with Parmesan cheese and a little bit of basil, fresh from the garden. All right, you guys, we have our fresh eggplant Parmesan, and I hope you enjoyed our recipe. We definitely enjoyed this one and are looking forward to eating this for our dinner tonight. If you like this recipe, please comment down below and hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.